it's Maths Masterclass with Leo. Today our focus area is on grade 12 and today we're doing functions. We're answering questions. We did introduction to functions in our previous session. We did show you everything that you need to know on functions, except maybe for the inverse, but inverse is very much easier. I'm going to show you as we deal with questions, right? Okay, without any further complaints, my name is Leonard. Today we are doing question 4, 2023 November question paper, right? And we're doing NSE, National Senior Certificate. The first question that we have, they say sketched below is the graph of f of x, which is equals to 2 to the power x minus 4, for x the element from negative 2 up to 4, right? A and B are respectively the y and the x-intercept of f. First question, write down the equation of asymptote, right? So there's a difference between what is the asymptote and write down the equation of the asymptote. When they ask you what is the asymptote of the graph, you can easily say q is equals to whatever you have. But when they say write down the equation, it's different, right? So when we did introduction, I showed you with an exponential, because this represents an exponential graph and this is an exponential function, right? So we have f of x. We said this is equals to a b to the power x minus p plus q, where q represents your what? Q represents your asymptote. That this is your asymptote, right? Asymptote, right? Okay, so in this question they did not say what is the asymptote. They are saying write down the equation of the asymptote. Equation y is equals to q, right? But when I look at this function, I can clearly see that q is represented by negative 4. Therefore y is equals to negative 4. This is my 4.1. That is the equation of the asymptote. 4.2, they are saying determine the coordinates of B. Coordinates of B, we can see that B, it is the x-intercept of our graph. And for x-intercept, y is equals to 0, right? We know that. For x-intercept, y is equals to 0. We have the equation. We can write our equation y is equals to 2 to the power x minus 4. I already know what is y. For x-intercept, y is equals to 0. I'm going to substitute 0 is equals to 2 to the power x minus 4. Right? Taking this to the other side, I'm going to have 4 is equals to 2 to the power x, and then 2 to the power 2 is equals to 2 to the power x. 2 is equals to x. Then my coordinates of B is 2 is to 0. Remember, y 0 because this is the x-intercept of our graph. Right? I hope that makes sense. Let's move to 4.3. 4.3. They're saying determine the equation of k, a straight line passing through A and B, in the form k of x. Right? So we know the coordinates of B. We will need to know the coordinates of A to determine our gradient. After determining our gradient, therefore y is equals to mx plus c, get the value of c and rewrite everything in terms of an equation. Right? Let's do that. Firstly, we need to know what are the coordinates of A. But we can see that A, again, this is the y-intercept of our graph. So for y-intercept, x is equals to 0, right? Rewriting our equation, you have y is equals to 2 to the power x minus 4, right? Then where there's x, substitute 0. Y is equals to 2 to the power 0 minus 4. And then y is equals to 1 minus 4. Then y is minus 3. Therefore, the coordinates of A is 0 is 2 minus 3. Coordinates of B, we got them, is 2 is 2, 0. Right? Now, I can now calculate my gradient. Gradient of AB is equals to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Right? And then y2 minus y1, y2 minus 3 minus 0, x2 2, or x2 is a 0 minus 2. This gives me negative 3 over negative 2. Therefore, my gradient is 3 over 2. Gradient of AB is equals to 3 over 2. From the gradient, y is equals to, okay, what's happening here with that? Y is equals to mx plus c. My gradient, I got it as 3 over 2. Y is equals to 3 over 2 x plus c. And then I can either use these coordinates or that coordinates. Let me use the coordinates of A. Therefore, if I use the coordinates of A, negative 3 is equals to 3 over 2 into 0 plus c. Therefore, the value of c, it is negative 3. Then my equation in terms of k of x will be k of x is equals to 3 over 2 x minus 3. That is my equation of k of x. Moving to 4.4, they are saying calculate the vertical distance between k and f at x is equals to 1. Right? If I were to draw my graph, it will be something like that. That is the graph of k. You can see at this part, k is above and b. K is above and f is below. K is above, f is below. So whenever you subtract, you take the one that is above, you subtract the one that is below. Right? So we say 4.4, the vertical distance. We'll say k, which is above, k of x, minus f of x. Right? Then from there, k of x, we know it is 3 over 2 x minus 3 minus f of x is 2 to the power x minus 4. We're told to identify the vertical distance at x is equals to 1. So where there's x, substitute 1. So this will be 3 over 2 into 1 minus 3 minus into 2 to the power 1 minus 4. Then our calculator, where is my calculator? Okay. So I'm going to say in bracket 3 over 2 into 1 minus 3 close bracket minus into 2 to the power 1 minus 4. So my distance is 1 over 2 units. Right? It is 1 over 2 unit. That is the distance or the vertical distance between k of x and f of x. Right? Let's move to the next question. 4.5. See, 4.5. 4.5. They are saying, write down the equation of g if it is given that g of x, so g of x is given that is f of x plus 4, right? So we need g of x. So this is going to be 2 to the power x minus 4 plus 4. Then you can definitely see that g of x is 2 to the power x. Just like that. Next question, 4.6. Write down the domain of G inverse, right? So remember, when you're dealing with inverses, inverse, it is the interchange of domain and range. So it means if I can get the range of this, if I can get the range of G, that range of G will now be the domain of G inverse, right? So from there, let's get our range. Where's our calculator? Let's see. At this point, you can see that we're given that our graph starts at -2 because of this, right? This tells us that our graph starts at -2 exactly, right? We will say 2 to the power -2. It gives us 1 over 4, right? That is our y value. Our y value, it is 1 over 4. So it starts at, so for the range of G, we have our starting point, which is 1 over 4, less than equal to, then our end point, let's see, 4. Let's put 4 there, positive 4. That is 60. So it will be y less than 16. Right? So range of G, it is that. Now, the range of G, is equals to G inverse of the domain of G inverse, actually. Domain of G inverse. Domain of G inverse. Right? So it is just the interchanging of domain and range. So in this case, we will have our domain of G inverse S 1 over 4 less than equal to, instead of y, we will put x less than 16. That is how we will identify our domain for our G inverse. Last question for this, which is 4.7. They are saying write down the equation of G inverse in the form y. So we have G of x is equals to 2 to the power x. Then it means y is equals to 2 to the power x. Interchange of domain and range, we will have x is equals to 2 to the power y. Then for this, we need to apply log. So y is equals to log base 2x. Right? That is your G inverse. Right? That is your G inverse for x is the element from -2 to 4. Right? That is how you will write the solution for that. Next question, question 5. Okay. Question 5. The graph of f of x is -1 over 2 into x minus 1, close bracket squared, plus 8. And g of x is d over x, are drawn below. So you can see that we have a parabola and a hyperbola, right? So g represents a hyperbola and f represents a parabola. A point of intersection of f and g is B. The turning point of f, okay, so they intersect at the turning point, right? The graph F has an intercept at -3:0 and 5:0, and the y-intercept at C. Okay. First question, 5.1. Write down the coordinates of the turning point of F. That is 2 marks. They want to know the coordinates of the turning point of F. Remember what we said. We said if you are given an equation like this, y is equals to a into x minus p squared plus q. You are given an equation like this. P and Q, they represent what? P and Q, they represent your turning point. TP, turning point, is P is to Q. So in this case, looking at this, what is my P? So I can say x minus 1 is equals to 0, and x is equals to 1. That is my P. And then my Q, I can see that this is 8. So 5.1, the coordinates of the turning point will be x is 1, y is 5. Not 5, but 8. Why do I say 5? 8. This 8. Right? And then these are the coordinates of B. Those are the coordinates of B. Let me just give it some space. This is 5.1. Coordinates of B. Okay. Write down the coordinates of C. Write down the coordinates of C. In this case, the easiest way to write down the coordinates of C is to expand this. We have y is equals to -1/2 into x minus 1 squared plus 8. Expand this, I'm going to have y is equals to -1/2 into x squared minus x plus 1 plus 8. This gives me -1/2 into x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 8. Then -1/2 x squared, negative, this is going to be positive x, plus this is positive, negative is going to be negative half plus 8. Right? And then getting our calculator, this will be -1/2 x squared plus x. Let's see our calculator. I have negative half, -1/2 plus 8. This is 15/2 plus 15/2. So in this case, the value of your C, your coordinates of C, it will be C is 0 is to 15/2. That it is your y-intercept. That represents your y-intercept, guys. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let's move to the next question. Write down the range of G. Where's G? Okay, write down the range of G. 5.3. Calculate the values of D. I almost jumped. 5.3. So we are looking for the value of D. What is the value of D? So we're given G of x is equals to D divided by x. So they want us to determine the value of D. So remember what they said. They said a point of intersection of F and G is B, the turning point of F. We already know the coordinates of the turning point, which is B. We got 1:8. Those are the coordinates of the turning point. So we're going to use the coordinates of the turning point to calculate the value of D. So this will be y is equals to d divided by x. Coordinates, I have 1 is equals to d divided by 8. Cross multiplying, the value of d is equals to 8. Right? The value of d is equivalent to 8. Next question, 5.4. Write down the range of g. So they're looking for the range of g. How do I now determine the range of g? Range, this, if you look at this very careful, this represents your what? This represents your hyperbola. Hyperbola, normal hyperbola, or the general equation is y is equals to a over x plus p plus q. Right? We can see this one. It is just y is equals to 8 over x. Meaning my asymptote is plus 0 here and plus 0 there. Right? It means q is equals to 0. P is equals to 0. So this means y cannot be 0. Because if y is 0, that gives you math error. Right? If y is equals to 0, it gives you math error. Then 5.5. For which values of x will f of x multiplied by g of x be less than or equal to 0? When you multiply f of x and g of x, where do you get 0 and negative values? Where do you get 0 and negative values? Right? Okay, in this case, we can see that here I have negative, both negative times negative is going to be positive, right? So it means it must be starting from this point going up, right? Because if I multiply these values, these are negatives, these are positives, right? So it means I'm going to get negatives going up. Here I'm getting zeros, okay? Then from, okay, what's happening? From this point, I still have, okay, my graph is both in the positive and positive parts. So this part from this point going that side up to this point, I don't have those values, right? From this point, I only have positive part. If I multiply this graph and this graph, I'm going to get positives. But from here to here, from this point, going up to C, if I multiply the two, I'm going to get negatives. And then here at C, I get 0. Then again, from 5, going that side, this is negative, but this is positive. Positive multiplied by negative, negatives. So we can easily see that from negative 3 less than equals to x less than 0 up to C, up to that point. And then from, again, x greater or equal to 5. So my graph will continue going that side, and this one will be continuing going down. So when I multiply the two, I'm going to get negative. When I multiply the two, I get negative. Let's move to the next question, 5.6. Okay, 5.6. What are they looking for? Calculate the value of k so that h of x minus 2x plus k will not intersect the graph of g. Okay, we're looking for k so that h of x is equals to negative 2x plus k will not intersect, will not touch the graph of g, right? So we want to know that point. Firstly, we'll say h of x should be equals to g of x, right? That is the first point. Then from there, we say negative 2x plus k is equals to 8 over x. right? Then from there, we cross multiply. This will give us negative 2x squared plus kx is equals to 8, right? And then rearranging, I have negative 2x squared plus kx minus 8. This is 0. Then if I divide by 2, if I divide by negative, it will give me 2x squared minus kx plus 8 is equals to 0, right? So now we need to work with your discriminant. Discriminant is equals to b squared minus 4ac, right? For our graph not to touch, for our h of x not to touch g, we must have our discriminant being less. It must be less. So discriminant must be less than 0. So b squared minus 4ac must be less than 0. Substituting, what is b? In this case, b is represented by k. So this would be k squared minus 4 into a is represented by 2, c is represented by 8. This is equals to, okay, this is less than 0, not equals to, this is less than 0. Then from there, k squared. Okay, this is negative, it's going to be 8 and 8, which is negative 64. Less than 0. Factorizing k, 8, 8, minus, plus, less than 0. Then, we can see that when k, negative 8 and k plus 8 is less than 0. Then here k is less than 8, k is greater than negative 8. So we have k greater than negative 8, k less than 8. So when k is in between negative 8 and 8, this is the part where our graphs will never touch. This is the point where our two graphs will never touch. When k is in between negative 8 and 8, the two graphs will never touch. Hope that makes sense. H is the last question, 5.7. H is the tangent of G at R. Okay. A point in the first quadrant. Okay, R is a point in the first quadrant. Calculate T such that Y 5.7 y is equals to f of x plus t intersects G at R. Okay. Now, H is the tangent to G at R. Okay. Tangent to our hyperbola at R. Maybe somewhere here, there's R. A point in the first quadrant. Calculate T such that y is equals to f of x plus t. Now, remember when we're dealing with your gradients and your tangents, that involves us differentiating. So we must differentiate g. So we know that g of x is equals to 8 over x. Right? Differentiating this, you'll have g of x is 8x to the power minus 1. Then differentiating, it will be g of x, or g prime of x is equals to negative 8x to the power negative 2. Then negative 8 over x squared. When I differentiate that, right? That is the first point. Then after doing that, what are they saying? calculate t such that y is equals to f of x plus t intersect at g. Remember what we have. If we go back to our g, where is it? Y is equals to f of x plus t, right? That is our equation. Now, after doing this, we know that we had h of x as y is equals to negative 2x plus k, right? Then this, which is our gradient, is equivalent to negative 2 is equals to negative 8 over x squared, right? Then cross multiplying, you have negative 2x squared is equals to negative 8. Then divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, x squared is equals to 4. Then you can see that x is equals to plus minus 2 when you do your square roots, right? So your coordinates, they said it is in the first quadrant. Therefore, the first coordinate is x is equals to 2. Cannot be negative because they said it is in the first quadrant. So x coordinate is equals to 2, right? Then from there, see if we can move to the... Okay. From there, what do? We know that y is equals to 1 over 2, which is negative, into x minus 1 squared plus 8. This is our f of x, right? This represents our f of x. F of x plus, in this case, we're going to add it with t. We're going to say f of x plus t, but we know what is the value of x. We know the x coordinate of our equation, right? So if we know the x coordinate of our equation, we can now determine the y coordinate of our equation. Y coordinate, you know the g of x is equals to 8 divided by x. Then y is equals to 8 divided by 2, which is equals to 4, right? Then from there, this 4, we substitute it here, which should be 4 is equals to negative half into 2 minus 1 squared plus 8 plus t. Then we can now calculate the value of t. 4 is equals to negative half into, this will be 1 plus 8 plus t. And this to the other side, 4 plus half minus 8 is equals to t. Then what is the value of t? What is the value of t? So we have a minus, so it's going to be 4 plus 1 over 2 minus 8. So our value of t is negative 7 over 2. Our value of t is negative 7 over 2. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the content with your friends. See you in the next video. Tango means thank you. Tango!